My best friend went off on my boyfriend and called him a sociopath because he didn't even smile when we saw a puppy at the park, but I wasn't there to see how it started. And now neither of them are telling me what happened, so what gives? My boyfriend, we'll call him Blake, 25 meters, and I, 25F, had been together for 3 years. Before we dated, we used to be co-workers at a retail store when we were both 17. The first thing I noticed about Blake when we met was that he never smiled or showed any emotion. He always had a serious, stoned look on his face. He hardly, if ever, showed any emotional sentiments. I don't know how to describe it accurately, but just imagine Eminem or Shadow from Sonic and how they both always had a serious look on their faces. That's how Blake is. Even when customers or our co-workers would try to joke with him, he never cracked a smile or laughed, which would make it awkward for them. However, Blake has always been respectful to those around him and never once raised his voice throughout his whole career. Our co-workers always thought Blake was weird and warned me to avoid him. However, despite all that, Blake and I ended up getting along great and became good friends. I never really minded that he never showed any emotions and still thought he was a good person. He even put up with my loud, extroverted self, Lowell. Over the years, Blake and I became close, and I would occasionally see him smile or laugh, which I would lightly tease him about when it did happen. On my 22nd birthday, which is on Valentine's, Blake had asked me to come over to his house and said it was serious. And when I got there, it was full of decorations and flowers, and Blake was dressed nicely. He gave a long speech about how much our friendship meant to him and that he was grateful he had met me and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I swear it felt like I was in a 70s rom-com movie. It was the first time I had seen Blake so vulnerable. He still had his cute serious stone face on him, but I could tell he was extremely nervous. I, of course, said yes, and we had been a happy couple since then. Now on to the issue. My best friend, let's call her Sarah, 26F, and I have been friends since we were in 5th grade. Sarah and I were each other's partners in crime. She and I were really close before I met Blake. She had never met Blake before, as at the time, he and I were just barely talking. And by the time we graduated high school, she had moved away to stay with her dad in another city, so she never got the chance to meet him. I, of course, talked about him and showed pictures of him and me together when we became closer and started dating. However, she once stated how she found it weird that he never was really smiling or seemed happy when he was with me, and that I shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't want to be happy around me. I brushed it off and just assured him that's how he is and that he is actually a sweet guy. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have looked past what she said, but at that time, I thought she was just being a protective friend. She had recently come back to our city and wanted the three of us to meet together. We decided to meet at a restaurant her and I used to hang out at. When we got there, Sarah and I ran at each other and squealed like little girls while Blake just stood and watched us. When Sarah looked at Blake, I noticed her expression immediately changed, and she awkwardly smiled and shook his hand and only said hi to him. Blake just nonchalantly said it was good to meet her. She then went back to talking to me, completely ignoring my Blake. When we got our menus, Blake couldn't find a meal he would enjoy and just said he would be fine with a small appetizer. Sarah unexpectedly said, "Why? Is nothing here good enough for you? Why would you agree to come here if you weren't going to get anything then?" She tried to say it like it was a joke, but any person can tell it was obviously not. I then defended Blake, claiming he could have whatever he liked and it wasn't a big deal. Sarah then dropped it at that. Throughout our dinner, Sarah was ignoring Blake and was only trying to talk to me. Blake just stayed silent and watched us, not really caring about it as he normally is not a big talker when meeting people. When she did include him, she would seemingly only ask him questions that would only need a one-word answer. And when he did answer, she would just give him side eyes or just say, "Okay then." I could already tell Sarah did not like Blake, but I couldn't understand why. She wasn't directly being rude to him, but I could tell when she was making snide remarks about how he was emotionless and whatnot. At one point, she excused herself to the bathroom, and when she left, I asked Blake if he was okay, and he assured me he was okay and just wanted me to catch up with my friend. I apologized for how she was acting, and he claimed he didn't care about it and was just happy I was with my friend. I was relieved he wasn't hurt by what was happening, but still felt bad for him. After dinner, the three of us went for a walk to see the buildings and stores, and Sarah seemed to be more cheerful. We then came across a person walking a small puppy. I love dogs so effing much, and Sarah and I cooed and were giggling at how cute the puppy was. Blake was just standing, watching us fawn over the puppy. Once the dog owner left, Sarah turned to Blake, and she immediately became angry and asked, "How the F could you not even smile for a puppy? Are you seriously that soulless?" I was immediately shocked about her sudden change of tone and was about to say something, but Blake just shrugged and walked away, continuing our walk. I asked her what the hell her problem was, and she immediately apologized and said she didn't mean to yell. Our walk then became awkward. I wanted to just go home, but I also felt bad for Sarah as she still had something else planned for after our walk that she had paid for the three of us to do. So I thought to just suck it up until it was over. I then had to use the bathroom, and we found a nearby store. I went in, and Blake and Sarah waited for me outside. When I came back, I found Sarah hysterically yelling at Blake. I immediately ran over to them and asked what the hell was going on. Sarah was in hysterics, but she kept yelling, "It's not going to happen. I will never let this happen." I asked her what she was talking about, but all she said was Blake was a sociopath and demanded I break up with him. I looked at Blake, who was just as shocked as I was. I kept trying to ask the both of them what had happened, but neither would answer me, which scared me. People started staring, and I desperately tried to calm Sarah down to de-escalate what was happening. Eventually, I told Blake to walk back to the car so we could go home, and I would call an Uber for Sarah. When we were alone, I was trying to get Sarah to tell me what had happened, but she just stayed silent. Blake came back to pick me up, and Sarah was just deathly staring at him, and he kept his head low. I didn't know what was happening and just started assuming they had an argument. Thankfully, Sarah's Uber came and took her back to her hotel. Our car ride home was awkwardly silent, but as soon as we got home, I demanded to know what happened between him and Sarah. Blake just stayed silent, and at that point, I was irritated with the both of them not answering my question. Blake said he couldn't say what happened, but that he was so sorry for what happened. That made me even more confused, and I asked him to please just say what had happened. He only said he swore he didn't do anything bad, but that he simply just couldn't say what happened. I then told him I was going to sleep in the guest bedroom as I just couldn't handle everything that was happening, especially since I still had no answer as to what had happened between the two of them. He said he understood and told me he loved me and went to our room. This all happened not even a few hours ago. I am currently lying in the guest room, confused and scared as ever. I know Sarah and Blake didn't really get along, but I don't know what caused such a huge fight that neither can tell me about. An hour ago, I got a text from Sarah. I will copy and paste it here. "Sarah, I'm really sorry about what happened tonight, but please listen to me. You need to break up with Blake. He is a literal sociopath who is only using you. He doesn't deserve you. I'm telling you this because I love you and want to protect you. Please break up with him." I haven't responded to her text as I know if I try asking again what happened between them, she won't give me an answer. Reddit, I don't know what to do. I don't know if Sarah had said something to Blake or if Blake had something to Sarah that caused all this, but I'm scared that neither of them will tell me. Does Sarah simply just does not like Blake because he doesn't like to show his emotions? Any advice on how I can get the truth or at least some answers would be helpful. Update. Hey, guys. I'm back with a new update. Before I begin, I just want to thank those who took the time to read and give advice on my post. Now with the update, the night I made the post, I had some time to sit and think about everything that happened. I now know I could have handled the situation better, and I shouldn't have let Sarah continue her horrible behavior towards Blake. The fact that both of them were not telling me what was going on irritated me, and I let my anxiety get the better of me. I wanted to hear Blake out first, so I decided not to read Sarah's messages. I had turned off my phone and spent the day on my computer watching Reddit stories and learning how to use it better and going for a run to get my mind off everything. Once Blake came home, I asked if we could talk, to which he agreed. Taking the advice of a kind predator, I sat him down and started by apologizing for walking away from him the night before and for not defending him more during the hangout. I assured him I love and trust him deeply and that I will believe what he says to me. Eventually, Blake told me what happened. Some of you guessed it right. Blake was planning on proposing to me. The way he described it was that when I left, he confided in Sarah that he was planning to propose to me and asked if she could help choose a ring since she was supposed to hang out with us again another day. Blake then said Sarah asked if he was being serious, and when he said he was being serious, she then started screaming and lashing out at him. She screamed at him that this engagement will never happen. You don't deserve her, and that's when I came outside. To say I was beyond shocked would be understandable. I then hugged him and once again apologized and asked if that was the reason he didn't want to tell me. Blake said yes, and it's because he didn't want to ruin the surprise. He then apologized for not just telling me, saying it wasn't worth keeping it as a surprise if it was causing us problems. I told him it wasn't causing us any problems and that I love him even more now. We both then hugged it out and made up. Blake then asked what Sarah had said about the situation. I admitted to him that I didn't read anything she had sent and just turned off my phone as I was scared of what she had said. After a while, I finally turned on my phone, and I honestly wished I didn't. When Sarah said she wasn't going to let this engagement happen, she really did mean it. I don't know she could do this to me, but now she's got our friends, my sister, and my aunt involved and even involved my estranged dad, which was a real low blow. For context, my dad and I are no longer on speaking terms due to an incident with my former stepmom. There's no longer together. After finally reading my family and friends' messages, it sums up that Sarah had told them I'm with a Sociopath and that I'm refusing to leave him even when she tried to help. So now, the people who once knew the sweet, loving Blake that I know think he is now a crazy person are begging me to leave him. I was and still am beyond furious. I had spent the whole night trying to clear the air with everyone except my dad. Unfortunately, my aunt and some of my friends are still agreeing with Sarah, which is breaking my heart. There were so many texts from Sarah, but it ranged from her begging me to answer her to her being mad that I was taking Blake's side and not hers to her apologizing for involving my dad but saying it was for my own good. I had only sent her one text, and it goes as follows. Copy and paste it. I don't understand how you expect me to take your side when you never told me why you said what you said. Blake had already told me what happened, and I can't even imagine what your side is. I can't believe you lied to our friends and my family. And for you to involve my dad? How the F do you even have his number? Above all, you disrespected my relationship and my boyfriend. Screw you. I have since blocked her. She never told me why she wouldn't tell me what happened, so I still don't know what her motive was on that part other than to try to break us up. Not a great update, but Blake and I are doing okay. He has been very understanding and patient throughout all this, and I couldn't be more grateful for him. I know this might not be the end of this nightmare, so I may update again soon. I just don't know how to go about this. How can I convince my friends and my aunt that Blake is a good person? Should I somehow get Sarah to admit she was lying? Once again, thank you all for your advice. To the one Redditor who said my story was fake and that I shouldn't be with someone like Blake, I just want you to understand that these types of cartoonish situations can unfortunately happen to us. And also, Blake is one of the best things that has ever been brought into my crazy life, and I couldn't imagine my life without him. So screw you. Anyways, I may see you all again soon. Take care.